Well, good morning to everyone who is joining us in the UK, and annyeonghaseyo to all of those who are joining us from South Korea this morning. Before I begin, I'd just first like to draw your attention to a few housekeeping matters. You should have all downloaded the latest version of Zoom, which is 5.3.0. And you should see the interpretation icon, which you can see on this slide here in the middle. If you can't see that, can you please log out, download the app again, and then come back in again, because we are using that icon today. And if you click onto that, you're then able to select the language of choice that you want to actually hear today. So for most of you, that will be English. So you just click on there and click onto English, and you should be able to hear everything okay this morning. In terms of Q&A, we have a question and answer session which is going to be run at the end of the presentations and facilitated by Michael Kipping, the innovation lead for digital health from Innovate UK. If you want to ask a question, please feel free to actually register your question in the Q&A box as we're going through this morning's session. Alternatively, when we get to the Q&A, you can raise your hand, and all of the icons are up here, which I'm sure you're very, very familiar with since we've all been using Zoom over the last few months. We will make you active to ask your question. So if you can unmute yourself and also turn on your camera, state your company and then ask your question, that will be absolutely fantastic. The chat facility will not be monitored. However, we do encourage you this morning to use that facility to make some comments and connect with each other using this function. The session this morning is being recorded. All of the slides will be sent to you after this morning's presentation, so don't worry about taking copious notes. So I think that's enough about the housekeeping. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Louise Hooker from Enterprise Europe Network, and I lead the Global Business Innovation Programme for South Korea. For those of you who might be a little bit unfamiliar with Enterprise Europe Network, it doesn't really, well, the name doesn't really describe who we are at all. We are the world's largest international business support network with over 600 offices in 65 countries. And through a network of about 3,000 innovation sector specialists, we are able to provide a local route to fully funded, tailored support and advice to help ambitious SMEs innovate, commercialize ideas and accelerate their international growth. Today, our focus is obviously with South Korea. And as an example, I thought I would give a picture of our EN partners, ED Research. Innovate UK fund Enterprise Europe Network in the UK. In South Korea, it is funded by KIAT, the Korean Institute for the Advancement of Technology, and KIAT is the innovation agency in South Korea. Our services are many and varied, but what we always do is tailor our support to meet the needs of the business. And I'm not going to go into these in that much detail at the moment, because I think the Global Business Innovation Programme really encapsulates in one hit what we do and how we help businesses. So I thought I would just start this morning's session by doing a little bit of scene setting and bringing a bit of context to this webinar, and really to start by explaining what the Global Business Innovation Programme is for those of you who are not familiar with the programme. Aimed at the most cutting edge and ambitious SMEs, the Global Business Innovation Programme, which is commonly known as the GBIP, is one of Innovate UK's flagship programmes, and it's the second stage of Innovate UK's Global Missions Programme, which supports the UK's industrial strategy ambitions to grow and scale UK companies by creating opportunities in priority markets. And the GBIP follows expert missions called GEMS, the Global Expert Missions, which are led by the Knowledge Transfer Network. The GEM actually for the Digital Health GBIP took place in March 2019, and a report detailing the observations can be found on the KTN website, and you can download that from their website. The GBIP is fully funded by Innovate UK. It is a competitive programme and it's delivered by Enterprise Europe Network. Each GBIP focuses on a key market, so we're talking about South Korea here, and a key technology, and we're talking about digital health with this one. All of the past, current and advertised GBIPs can be found on the Enterprise Europe Network website. The programme aims to help SMEs overcome the barriers and challenges that they face trying to access international markets and collaborate overseas. And we do this by building capacity, building capability, and introducing companies to potential partners. And what's really important is to emphasise that it is a three-stage programme. It is not just a visit out to a particular market. Since 2018, January 2018, EEN has supported over 600 SMEs through now in excess of 50 GBIPs. And my team has worked with over 100 companies through 8 GBIPs. 5 of these have actually been to South Korea. And through those visits and programs, it's enabled us to really build some strong network of trusted partners. So the 3 stages, it starts with the preparation stage. So from the point of where we select a cohort, a small cohort of about 15 companies, we work intensively to build their capability so that they're able to fully exploit the opportunity when they get out to market. I'm going to come back to this slide in a minute, so I won't labour on this one. We then take them out to the market. So we work with partners in country, including our local EEN partners, teams at the British Embassy, for example, DIT, third-party organisations. So in the past, we've worked with AMRC Korea on advanced materials. And we put together a tailored between 5 to 7 day in-country visit. And what we aim to do is give each delegate the greatest exposure to that market and help them connect to the right people and key organisations. And just these are some of the pictures of previous GBIPs we've had, but I think you can see the level of and quality of people that we're able to access. For example, Hyundai, Korean Air, Korean Aerospace Industries. We normally attend an international event, but what's really important is participation in B2B meetings, because we know that these really generate the best chances of collaboration. And when we come back, what we do is we continue to work with companies through a combination of cohort support, supporting them as a network together, and also one-to-one support so that they can really develop a market entry strategy, develop those relationships with people that they've met in country during the visit, and identify other collaboration partners. And we also work with them to identify bi- and multilateral funding opportunities, for example, through the Eureka programme. We've had some great successes through the programme. Just on here, one of the probably most notable in South Korea was a collaboration between Herdsy, who pitched to Samsung in a visit and secured a partnership deal with Samsung to develop an animal tracking device. Benefits of the programme, well, probably relatively obvious, but it is supported by Innovate UK, supported by the British Embassy. This brings kudos and prestige, and it means that we can really open doors and connect you to the right people and organisations which would really probably be otherwise beyond your reach. We work with trusted partners who live in the country, know the culture, the business environment, who are connected to their local ecosystems. And importantly, with someone like Korea, they actually speak the language, which is really, really important. It is a superior and unique experience, and it not only gives all of the delegates an opportunity to really immerse themselves in the country, its culture, but it also enables them to come together in a small cohort. It's an intense experience, and they're able to grow together through peer-to-peer learning, which we've found is really something that comes out of the programme. So why are we all here today? Well, I'm going to actually take you back to this slide here, because back in November 2009, we launched and recruited a cohort of 15 digital health companies to participate in a GBIP. And we got to about this point. So this was actually the pre-visit workshop. And when you get these slides, if you click on the capability, it will take you to the link of that pre-visit workshop. And we were working with our partners in country, many of them who you're going to hear from today, to put together a full itinerary for that delegation. And then COVID struck. So we initially suspended our plans to visit to October. With continuing travel restrictions and uncertainty, obviously that hasn't been possible. So we have moved to favour a more virtual programme, with the intentions of taking our already recruited cohorts to South Korea in March. This has meant, however, that we've been able to open up some of the programme to more companies, enable them to gain more knowledge and understanding about the South Korean market, the healthcare sector, and opportunities for collaboration. And it's really a little bit of a bite-sized experience for other companies, to get some exclusive access to some individuals who you probably wouldn't be able to connect to on your own. There's also a strong prospect that we will be looking to recruit a second cohort later in 2021, because we know that the chances for successful collaboration in a country like South Korea improve with a longer term strategic approach rather than just a one-off event. We also know that the more prepared companies can be before they actually visit the market, the more that they can familiarise themselves and connect to key organisations, start to build and nurture trusted relationships, the greater the prospects of them actually securing sort of a successful access to that market. So it's really important, particularly with South Korea, to start your journey now. Don't leave it until the next GBIP is launched. Really start to familiarise yourself, get as much knowledge as you can about the market, start to connect to people in country, because when we do actually come to recruit, that's what we'll be looking for through any application from you as well. I think we've got an absolutely fantastic lineup of speakers today, and I'm sure that they're going to give you much more than a brief introduction to this market. So without further delay, I am going to introduce our first speaker, Gareth Davis. And Gareth is Head of Science, Innovation and Energy at the British Embassy in Seoul, and manages the relationships for science and technology R&D with the UK and South Korea. So it's my pleasure to hand over now to Gareth Davis.
Thanks very much, Louise, and good afternoon to everybody. A very good afternoon here in Seoul, and it's my pleasure to be joining today's event. And following a very big billing from Louise, I'll do the best that I possibly can to share with you a bit of information looking at what we're doing here at the Embassy in order to support innovation overall, and then a bit more specifically at what we're doing around working with the GBIP process and how we see that being something that you can take to your advantage in the future. So hopefully most of the people here would have already heard about the UK Science and Innovation Network, but if you haven't, we are a network of probably now around 120 offices. We're rapidly expanding in around 40 countries in the world, and our major responsibilities are those four key themes there. It's really how are we developing meaningful relationships that deliver impact for UK and Korean researchers and industry. How can we promote long-term commercial R&D partnerships, but with the linkage being the R&D partnership itself. Commercial is not the orientation, it's R&D, but hopefully something that leads through to a commercial relationship. We work a lot around science policy, as you can imagine, and that's both promoting what the UK is doing overseas. So several of you might have already caught the new UK R&D roadmap that was published shortly ago. We promote that to the Koreans, but we're also gathering in lots of interesting data that comes in from new Korean policies. For example, the brand new Korean New Deal policy here in Korea, and what that
코리아
means.
뉴딜 정책도 있고요. 그리고 어떤 기회를 영국에 가져다 주는가, 그리고 여기에 어떻게 더 관심을 가질 수 있는가, 여기에 대해서 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 그래서 저희 영국 사람들도 여기에 점점 더 관심을 갖고 있습니다. 그래서 영국이 또 여기에 대해서 무엇을 잘할 수 있는가, 무엇을 잘 수출할 수 있는가, 그리고 어떤 것들에서 협력을 할 수 있는가, 이런 것들이 있겠죠. 그래서 이 모든 것들이 저희가 이런 네트워크를 더 잘 만들기 위해서 이렇게 노력하고 있다는 걸 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 커뮤니티들을 함께 모으고 있습니다. 관계를 말씀드리면 1985년에 저희가 처음으로 영국 한국과 과학기술 협력에 대해서 서명.
Government to government meetings that allow us to look at a high top level at what are our national priorities and where those links and interests overlap mutually. We were supposed to be holding our last meeting back in 2019 after the one held in 2017, but after the decision to withdraw from the from the EU, from the decision then to take a general election in the UK, and then now COVID, it means that we're now looking at these government-to-government meetings happening in just a few weeks at the end of October, and we are expecting absolutely this theme of digital healthcare to be right up there in terms of important themes that our two governments want to discuss. Typically, the UK government is represented by Bays as the head of the UK delegation coming out, and it's our role here at the embassy to ensure that all of these meetings go to plan, the agendas are arranged, and that we're bringing together the best possible partnerships of UK government partners, funding agencies and funding support agencies. We have four ministerial partnerships, but three which are the key three: Ministry of Science and ICT, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, and the Ministry of Health and Welfare. And depending on the TRL level of your organizations, it could actually be that you're working in digital healthcare with all three of those main partnerships that we currently have. The Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transport is one that we're developing at the moment, but not as relevant to this theme. So with those four major activities mentioned earlier on, what do we actually do to deliver against those ambitions? So really our big part of our work is how do we bring together those communities of innovators and researchers together? And that's through small scale networking, knowledge exchange funds and mobility grants. That's getting people to move. Sadly, this is nowhere near as much as we would like to have in order to make it happen. But these are very targeted against government to government agreed themes. Policy information exchange, and then R&D visits, and it's this kind of digital healthcare GBIP that we're talking about that has become the bread and butter for what we're doing on a yearly basis. So yes, we have the normal senior level visits and funding agency visits coming through, but the work that we're now doing through Innovate UK with the global expert missions and through Innovate UK and the EEN UK offices for GBIPs, these are a big part of what we're doing now. And then ultimately all of this is about, yes, it's about generating the R&D and innovation partnerships, but it's also about hopefully transforming those relationships into a commercial win for the UK partner and for the Korean partner ideally. And so we then, where we can, push the transition of those relationships to colleagues in the Department for International Trade here at Post and back in the UK so that they can support those across. Very quickly on the Korean economy, 51 million people, highly developed country. It really grates on me when I hear South Korea lumped into Southeast Asia. Geographically, it's not true, but also economically very, very different. different. We're a country of highly advanced manufacturing companies in particular, lots of household names like Samsung and LG, but it's facing some interesting challenges at the moment. And the two probably on the more health-oriented side, firstly, well, beyond COVID-19, but firstly is rapidly aging society. Very, very quickly aging here, all sorts of challenges faced by the healthcare system, but then that brings with it the opportunities that things like digital healthcare can offer. And also, it's now a negative birth rate country. So we have a country that has something like 0.95 of a child per family, but that's declining. And this is going to be an issue over the next 30 to 40 years, but one that they're highly focused on. Very highly educated, hardworking workforce. About 75% of high school graduates go on to get a bachelor's degree. Very modern high-tech infrastructure. First country in the world, obviously, to roll out 5G, and the first one to have full 5G coverage for the whole country. Strong economic base. Fifth largest economy by GDP. But we've got issues on growth. So you can see there that the growth is sliding. Latest figures there for 2019, 2020. I think we're probably seeing about, at the moment, I think it's about 1 to 1.5 is anticipated. Ranked fifth in terms of ease of doing business. And then major trading partners very much dominated geographically by China and Japan. Very strong relationship with the US, as you can imagine, and then a very, very large FTA with the European Union. But importantly, we have a free trade agreement with Korea ready to go once we get the withdrawal from the European Union, well, if that goes ahead at the beginning of next year. Major industries listed there. For those here, I think it's probably more interesting at the bottom end of that list. But I think what we're really seeing over the last 6 months in response to COVID-19 in particular is we're seeing this big push for a global leadership position in health. And so we're seeing Samsung, LG and others redirect their whole of corporation portfolios towards the healthcare space. And that includes things like pharmaceuticals, medical and digital technologies. And this is really providing an interesting opportunity. And if you're looking at the kind of policy that we're seeing at the moment, one of the specific sectors is coming through is what they call here in Korea, contactless technologies, how we can deliver health without needing to be in direct contact with the patient or the person that requires it. And so this is a really interesting opportunity. And we've got a lot of skill set in the UK that we know that Korea can benefit from, but equally, we've got a lot of hardware and software capability here in Korea that you could be accessing to support you. So I wanted to give you a quick look at what our team does. I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to be sharing this in the slides as a PDF afterwards. This is what a normal year would look like for our team in the Science Innovation Team Korea. And if you look to the very left of that, you can see a global health and life sciences channel there. This is absolutely where this particular GPIP is listed, and in fact you should see it right just towards the bottom on in that column. But here we have a range of different priorities. We have the bilateral government to government discussion processes, funding programs that we're trying to access that make these things possible. And for those on the call here today, we're particularly looking at that Innovate UK KIAT link, ideally through Eureka, but we are exploring the opportunity for non-Eureka bilateral funded programs as well. And we are exploring greater relationship opportunities with the Korea Health Industry Development Institute that we will be hearing from shortly later in today's presentation. But do please feel free to ask any questions later on this. You'll notice, yes, it's out of date, but we're not in a normal year. COVID-19 has rather hampered the way that we deliver, but this is still a good indication of what we would have been expecting to deliver this year. Funding bilateral collaboration. So there are a range of different things that are applicable that aren't the Eureka program. So we are working through the UK Research and Innovation Organisation with their Fund for International Collaboration. We have had some success in securing that. Yes, it's sometimes possible for companies to be involved in that, but it tends to be companies with good links to universities or to research institutions that can take part in there. And we are looking to see how we can exploit that for greater use through Innovate UK, but we work very closely with them on these submissions. Domestic application funds, we often recommend that this is a way of how you could be working with Korea. If it's not Eureka, how can you use those national funding channels through Innovate UK in particular, create virtual matching funds, and then the European channel. So Eureka Network, hopefully the majority of you will have heard on, and Horizon 2020, we're coming to the end of that process now. There's a lot of discussion about what the UK's position will be in Horizon Europe. I'd love to be able to give you more details about that, but unfortunately I can say I probably know as much about you. That's a long and lengthy process that's ongoing at BAYS, and so hopefully we'll have some further clarity in the not too distant future. So as mentioned, Louise said that there's been a range of the GBIT missions that have now come out, but there's a precursor to those. So we work very closely with Innovate UK and the Knowledge Transfer Network on these global expert missions. These are coming out, they're surveying the landscape, they're meeting with major players. They're usually also visiting a trade show or a conference that's relevant to the subject. And these then develop reports that are shared with the UK community to understand what the opportunity is. And as Louise has already shared, digital health is recognised as an opportunity, a major opportunity. It is a priority of Innovate UK in this space, and it's something where we can see a lot more support for in the future. Those GEM missions transition into the Global Business Innovation Programme, and our role here at the embassy is to make sure that these missions get all the reach that they possibly can do, whether it's using our contacts through our DIT colleagues to get you into the major corporations, whether it's using our links through UK partners in countries such as AMRC Korea. That's the Korean branch of the UK's Advanced Manufacturing and Research Centre just outside Sheffield, and other organisations that are going to be getting you access to the kinds of partners that you're needing, that you're ultimately getting to the B2B that you're really looking for on these missions, but also getting market insight, market overview, and some of that how to do business here in Korea. So a range of different things that we've been working on over the last 3 years. Lots more to come, we hope, but obviously we're waiting for the spending review that's currently going on in government and the new budget to be announced. And obviously we're waiting for the COVID-19 situation to subside. Eureka, I won't cover the UK here, but on the South Korean side, very active since 2009. And actually prior to my role here at the embassy, I worked at the Korea Institute for Advancement of Technology, and it was my role working in those European collaborations for Korean SMEs. And typically they're funding around 20 Korean participations a year through Eureka. Recently a bit more targeted at the Eurostars angle, because they see the sort of the value and the image of that brand, and the sort of the challenge and the reward of getting to that level of recognition. But we're also seeing now over the last couple of years in particular, and especially since the UK held the chairmanship of Eureka, we're seeing much greater interest in the UK in cooperating with Korea, and that's really ramped up through 2 bilateral calls recently. And for those of you that might have joined the Eureka Global Innovation Summit in May last year in Manchester, you will have seen how interested Korea was. They sent a delegation of 150 people and 60 companies. They really are committed to trying to build that bilateral relationship. And we are very keen to take advantage of that. And we are hoping to get further details of Korea's own Eureka Day event. It's a virtual event coming up, we think, at the back end of November. Well, you'll be able to register your company to identify partnerships here in Korea, and we will be sharing that information via the EEN team and Innovate UK, so do please watch out for that. And if you look at the collaborative funding, I mentioned we've had a couple over the last 2 years. We had a coordinated, non-funded coordinated call back in 2018 that sort of really started to test the water, lots of interest in that. And then our first proper joint funded call into Eureka last year with 3 to 4 projects ideally funded and a decent amount of money put in by both sides. And this year is where we've seen it really change. So for the UK joining Korea's multilateral funding call focusing on advanced materials, we expected to be able to get a good quality contribution from the UK. We were really, really surprised. We had over 20 applications, most of those in the advanced materials sector. There were a couple of little outliers that were also included, but really importantly, it was a lot of those members of the GBIPs that had come through on advanced materials that were really taking advantage of this. Unfortunately, only 3 to 4 of those projects will be funded, but we are looking to see what more we can be doing with KIAT to unlock extra funding, because a lot of those projects were good enough to have been funded if they had not made, if they had made that bottom end cut by the funding that was available. So watch the space for that sort of thing if that is an area in which you're interested in, something that we hope over the next couple of years we can turn into something for digital healthcare. Other additional funding sources, I'll share this with you so you can read it. I think a couple of things I'm going to point out in here. If you already have a South Korean local partner, absolutely take advantage of their knowledge of the local sector. I think the SMEs here in Korea are really aware of what's available at the national level through agencies, at the regional level through local governments, and through industry associations and partnerships, business parks, techno parks. There's all sorts of different things here that they're able to access. Please, please, please make sure you understand exactly what they think they're able to access here in Korea, because some of it might be available to you indirectly. So it's really worth looking through. There are a range of programs also available through the Ministry of SMEs and Startups here. It's an area which we're starting to understand. So do please be looking to see what your partners know around there. And there is also a growing venture capital sector here. There's a lot of money floating around in Korea. So if you are in that sort of startup scale-up phase, you're looking for VC support, there is options here. There's a lot of money and it's worth having a look around. It's going to be something which we encourage you to do the research on. It's not something very easy for us to support you into, but do please have a look around. And then just on the large industrial partners, if you are intent on getting to Samsung and LG, please do your homework. Is it really best for you to be going for the big corporates, or is it actually better for you to be going into tier 1, tier 2 vending chain suppliers? Do look at that really carefully. A lot of people come here and go, Samsung, it's the only way. Do look at what the other opportunities are. Future collaboration, serious interest, with a big push from them for us to be doing more around calls. I've mentioned the readiness of the free trade agreement. Innovate UK, Korea is a priority for them. They're looking to develop more talks about bilateral call funding, more talks around GEMS, and of course more talks around GBIPs subject to funding decisions, but we're pretty confident that that will be coming through. And then a little bit on just building the relationship. So Louise mentioned all the way back at the beginning, Korean language, yes, it's valuable to have it if you've got it as a resource, but what's really important is that you take the time to build those relationships. You can't necessarily simply come to Korea and meet somebody and after half an hour have a deal done on the table. It's not unheard of. There are more sort of Western savvy companies here, but more often than not, it's going to be sustained engagement with your partners in order to get at what you're trying to achieve, making sure that you understand the socio relationships between yourself and the other people on the other side of the table, understanding that you're going to have to commit to a bit of time to mixing with them in a social capacity, spending time with them, developing those deeply personal relationships that are usually absolutely at the core of working with Korean partners. And on the negotiating side, it is trust and respect. But I will tell you that Koreans are master negotiators. They are very, very good. They will push and push and push on every single tiny point. So bargain hard, bargain fair, and where you can, be seen to concede, be able to rock back onto a position that you're content with, but makes it maybe look like they've got what they want out of it. So that's a bit of a flying visit through what SynCareer does, a little bit of a look about how we're supporting the process that some of the companies on the line are already going through, that hopefully other companies on the line will be going through in the near future, and delighted to answer any questions that might be coming up shortly. Thank you very much.
Thanks ever so much, Gareth. That was brilliant, a great sort of introduction to what the Science and Innovation Network do, and generally about South Korea. And I think just really quickly picking up on 2 points, it is that classic, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint in South Korea. And I think both Ruslan and Logan, who are going to be speaking sort of subsequently, will allude to that as well. And I think just picking up on the point of the Global Business Innovation Programme and the applications into the multilateral fund, the Eureka fund more recently, classic example of how, you know, these companies have been through a programme and we've really sort of gone on to support them after the visit. And I think it's just so important to highlight that. The visit just opens the door. It's about, and stepping into a room, it's about, can you actually sort of work the room once you're in there? So, you know, you really do have to think, if you're interested in somewhere like South Korea, if you're interested in the Global Business Innovation Programme, this is a pretty long-term commitment from any business. That's great. I think we will move on now then to our next speaker, Ruslan Turzanov. And Ruslan is a digital health specialist for Intralink, an international business development consultancy that has a deep specialism in East Asia. And Ruslan focuses on the life sciences and medtech sectors and has helped many SMEs enter the Korean market. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ruslan now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise, for the great introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this early morning, Monday morning. If we didn't have the coronavirus, then I would have been probably presenting this in front of you at the UK Embassy in Korea. But yeah, let's enjoy this webinar. So today I will be, let me share my screen with you. All right, so today, I will be providing an overview of opportunities in the rapidly growing Korean digital health market, thanks to heavy deregulations and regulatory waivers for advanced medical technologies, as well as special efforts made by the government. And if you consider the fact that 65% of all advanced medical technologies are imported from the US, Europe, or Japan, then you may confidently think that there is an opportunity for most of your companies in Korea. And before going to the details of the digital health market, I'd like to give you some ideas on the general situation in the healthcare system. So despite spending only 8% of GDP, South Korea has high quality, near universal and affordable healthcare. And it was actually ranked the 4th most efficient healthcare system by Bloomberg. And South Korea boasts large hospital bed to population ratio, which stood at 13.5 per 1,000 citizens. That's second only to Japan. And as I mentioned, about 65% of medical devices are imported from the US, Europe, and Japan, and actually some other countries as well. But US actually account for over 50% of all imported medical devices, and Germany 18%, Japan 11%. Actually, one of the important factors contributing to the use of imported advanced medical devices and equipment is that many local doctors are educated in the US and Europe and are accustomed to using these advanced medical devices. That's why they would like to keep using these imported devices in Korea as well. And also, the dominance of a few big 5 hospitals is so big is that if I don't mention them, it's going to be unfair. And actually, these big 5 hospitals, only big 5 hospitals, treat around 5% of outpatients. And according to some expert estimates, about 70% of all cancer patients are treated by these big 5 hospitals. And these hospitals are so important that I will mention them throughout the presentation. But also, you can also check out my recent article on these hospitals I posted on my LinkedIn. So, Korean digital healthcare market is growing rapidly, and it was estimated at 2.4 billion pounds in 2015, but is expected to reach 4.4 billion pounds towards the end of 2020. And there is strong government drive to support digital health through investment and deregulations. And but still, there are some regulatory barriers around data sharing and telemedicine, but they are being dealt with step by step. As we all know, Corona has impacted all sectors of life, all corners of life, including the delivery of medical services. But in Korea, it actually, companies turned this healthcare crisis into an opportunity, because several companies developed COVID test kits by using AI, and also they identified several candidates for COVID treatment using the AI drug development platforms. Additionally, the government allowed telemedicine practices to be used during the pandemic. And I will also talk about this during the presentation. Today, our main discussions will be around current trends in health information technologies and big data, including AI, precision medicine, genomics, and the use of blockchain in healthcare, and current situation around telemedicine and developments in consumer health electronics. So, as Gary's mentioned, the aging of South Korea has become a major concern for the government on how to service this large population, and it not only just serve, but also at an affordable cost. And currently, 14% of the population is over 65 years old, and this figure is expected to become 25% by 2025. That's a major issue now. And the prevalence of diabetes also has increased from 1.5% to about 10% in the past 40 years. This has, of course, increased the demand for care and costs as well. And also, another following issue is that it is becoming really common among children. This, of course, needs special care from the government side. The issue of continued smoking in Korea has increased the cases of lung cancers. Actually, the lung cancer is the deadliest cancer in Korea. I would say 25% of all cancer deaths has been caused by lung cancer. All right. Since President Moon Jae-in came to power, he identified digital health as one of the key growth sectors, and it has become one of the focus areas for the current government. In 2018, the government identified AI-based medical solutions as one of the national tasks, and then actually lots of work have been done. I will talk about this during the presentation. And government is building, bio databases for medical big data, and is working on loosening review processes of data AI-based medical devices and other things that are being used for precision medical platforms. And thanks to high adoption rate of AMR and HIT, there is high quality medical data. And it's no secret that South Korea leads the world in terms of internet speed and the smartphone penetration. It is also the largest blockchain market in the world. So let me check. hear me all?
Yeah, can hear you. We just lost your sort of presentation for a while. That's fine.
Sorry. So that's it about the infrastructure. This time I'll talk about digital healthcare ecosystem. The ecosystem consists of government institutions, regulatory bodies, startups, scale-ups, some associations, and of course, big five medical centers and some other hospitals. There are some conglomerates that have been involved, and also the growing involvement from these companies. Recently, for example, SK Telecom has established a new joint firm called Innovate Health, through which they're planning to develop a kind of a cloud solution for hospitals to, blockchain-based cloud solution for medical institutions to securely store their data. And also that company is developing now a remote monitoring device for chronic illness, for patients with chronic illnesses. And also SK Telecom is actually, through that joint firm, is planning to distribute medical devices that have been imported from other countries to those hospitals. So it can be a kind of a rival. At the same time, it can be a partner. So now I will talk about those 5 areas I have mentioned at the beginning. Health information technologies market was estimated at £272 million in 2015, and is expected to nearly triple by £706 million by 2022. South Korea boasts high EMR adoption rates in hospitals and clinics, 96.3% in hospitals and 95.7% in clinics. It means there is a lot of high quality data available for your solutions to be implemented in Korea right away. And the government is increasing a lot of investment towards the standardization of medical records. And FIDRNet is one of those several projects that has been funded by the ministry separately. And hospitals are growing digital day by day. For example, Seoul National University Bundang Hospital was the first Korean hospital in APAC to go 100% paperless. And some other hospitals are following this trend, including Smart Medical Center from Catholic University Hospital, and Aju University Hospitals these days are moving really quickly. And these are being helped by Samsung STS, LG CNS, AD CareTech, and some other system integrators and information technology builders. Healthcare big data market is expected to reach £170 million by 2023. And Personal Information Protection Act, one of the most stringent acts in the world, I would say, has held back the growth of the data industry in Korea. But recent amendments in the major privacy acts, including PIPA, have brought some hope. I can tell some major changes there. Of course, it provided really good clarification on the personal information and de-identified pseudonymized information. It has also clearly stated that that data can be collected and anonymized and used for scientific research and for public use, but it's still not clear if they can be used for commercial use. It can be utilized for commercial use, but I hope maybe Kim Jong-yup or Yong Jun Lim, I think, will clarify this during the presentation after me. And government is supporting through investments and deregulation. It actually planned to invest £678 million towards revising data regulations last year, and it has spent a lot, and we can see some results of these efforts. Genomics in Korea. I have, as part of big data, I have I'm going to give some information about genomics in Korea. I have divided this market into two: providers and consumers. So on the provider side, it is kind of equipment market and testing market. Equipment market was worth £65 million, and Illumina controls 70 to 80%, as everyone knows. Testing market, so it was worth £200 million and expected to reach £635 million by 2025. The available testing tests are NIPT, NBS, and some cancer tests, exosome, metagenome, and things like this. But the problem is whole genome sequencing is not as prevalent as in the US or in Europe. In terms of players, in just equipment, Illumina is number one, Oxford Nanopore Technologies is becoming number two, has become already number two, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Roche, and recently we have seen BGI Technologies entering the market and attracting a lot of consumers here. In terms of NGS testing, this market is quite service provider dependent, I would say, because most researchers and clinicians even reach out to service providers and ask them to do the job for them until even interpretation of the results. Macrogen, for example, is number one with 65% market share. Theragenetics number two with about 20-25%. DNA Link and ChonLab are following these providers. Genomics in consumer side. This consumer part of this genomics can be divided into three groups. The first group, consisting of 20 institutions, hold 70% market share. These include 5 major hospitals called Big Five, and 10 clinical commercial labs, and 5 major sequencing service providers I have just mentioned. And group 2 includes 25% market share. Most of them are major local hospitals in provinces outside Seoul and university hospitals, newborn clinical commercial labs, and some rich government-affiliated research institutes. Just as a case study, I have prepared this. We worked with Oxford Nanopore Technologies to evaluate market size, opportunities, and barriers. We have identified market interest strategy and best partners for them. Currently, they're working with the distributor and some key opinion leaders identified during the project, and they're doing really well. I have spoken to the distributor recently as well. And precision medicine in Korea. The government has been promoting the use of digital health in every aspect of medical service delivery. And we can see that in as part of precision medicine systems in Korea. The government was, following a lot of investment into building infrastructure, precision medicine systems. You can see here, national precision medicine programs were announced in 2017. And one of them was a precision medicine hospital information system. Another one is precision medicine-based cancer diagnostics. Both are being developed by Korea University in collaboration with a Swedish company. And they have already kind of completed the basics, but they're still working on developing this. And also HIRA is increasing the number of targeted therapies that are eligible for reimbursement. This will also help the growth of precision medicine in the country. And yeah, in this sector, we have helped Syapse, a US-based, California-based company. We have helped them understand the regulations around precision medicine and data sharing. Recently, they have signed another customer in Korea, Aju University Hospital, with Aju University Hospital. And this is actually, by the way, public information. And this is Syapse's second international customer as well. So both are in Korea. The first one was Seoul National University Hospital, one of the Big Five. And the second one, Aju University Hospital, that is kind of a sister hospital of Seoul National University Hospital. So artificial intelligence-based products and services. have become a major thing now in Korea. As I mentioned during the beginning of the presentation, AI-based medical technologies have been added as one of the national tasks into the fourth industrial revolution part, and it was predicted to reach to 7.65 million pounds by 2020, but because of the recent developments due to coronavirus, we expect this to become more, even about 20 million pounds by end of 2020. And in 2017, Korean government approved the guidelines for examination and approval of medical devices was based on big data and AI. And in 2018, there were only 4 to 5 products available, I mean approved and available in 2018, 4 to 5. But now, as of April 2020, there are more than 20 AI-based medical technologies. So this is a really, really big lab. And government is not only deregulating, it's also helping through investments. As I said, they are investing 24.6 million pounds into building a Korean medical AI system. And there are some special programs, and also hospitals are also working with industries and building their own technologies in collaboration. Because of these major developments, South Korea became the first chair of AI Medical Devices Association that was founded by major countries, US, UK, and some other countries. And we will, so this association is now working on standardizing regulatory approval processes around the world, and Korea is chairing it. Blockchain-based health applications market trends. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is the third largest blockchain market in the world. It's growing because of the government investments into this, and there is one special zone for developing blockchain-based technologies. It's not only medical, but yeah, mostly. And the key areas of blockchain technology being implemented are secure medical data storage, integrated health record systems, and safe data sharing platforms, because safety is quite important for exchanging data for digital health technologies. So we all know that tele means far away and a long distance, and Korean telemedicine has come a long way, and I think it's going a long way in the future as well. But we will see. Can you imagine a country banning telemedicine practices? Yes, you heard it right. In Korea, telemedicine practices are illegal. And but there is one thing. Telemedicine market is, even if it's illegal, one recent survey showed that 54% of Koreans are open to trying telemedicine. And if South Korea allows telemedicine, and if only 20% of Koreans participate, then there will be a market of 1.4 billion pounds. That's why, even though Moon Jae-in had a campaign promise in 2017 that he wouldn't allow telemedicine practices if he becomes president, recently, I wouldn't say quite recent, but in December 2018, one of the top officials came out and said the government would allow telemedicine practices from March 2019. Although they allowed a bit late, actually the Korean government allowed telemedicine practices in one province, in the entire province, so that the government and medical professionals can test it out, and if the results are good and promising, then there is a hope that telemedicine practice can be allowed across the country. But doctors are still against telemedicine, as you can see here. Doctors are powerful in Korea through the Medical Doctor Association. They demonstrate against the government, they protest against the government proposals from time to time. If you don't believe it, look at this. Even during coronavirus, armed to teeth with face shields, face masks. They've been protesting against one of the government initiatives recently to increase the number of medical students in the coming 10 years. So one of the last areas I'm going to cover today, consumer health electronics market is expected to reach 176 million pounds by 2023, making it the fourth fastest growing market in APAC. There are some government, how can I say, there is a kind of strong government support through sandbox regulations and reimbursement. Until last year, the government was not allowing any wearable with medical feature to be certified and used in Korea. But in February 2019, the government allowed Mimo Watch, one of the ECG watches, to be certified and see what will be the results. And recently in May, this year in May, it became eligible for reimbursement. So there's a lot of hope that it can be actually, there is actually hope for many companies in this sector. And main products already available on the market are sweat rate sensors in the form of watch, this biosensing smart contact lenses capable of detecting glucose levels in patients with diabetes. Opportunities, smart medical centers, fully digitized hospitals, clinical IT systems, medical imaging information systems, and health-related connectivity devices and wearable for managing diabetes and fall detection. Actually, this is quite a hot area because recently we were talking to the head of LG Electronics, head of innovation department at LG Electronics, and he said the company is looking really hard at this and fall detection through watch or some kind of software biomechanics. I will be quick because of the timing, I think. So doing business in culture, some aspects of culture in doing business in Korea. Some of them were mentioned by Gareth, but I'll go through some of them. The Koreans are fast moving and driven by a ferociously competitive environment. If they want to do it, they have to do it through a week. In that case, it will require you to be flexible sometimes. And of course, personal relationships are important, but relationships should start somewhere. That's why they are open to cold outreach. And corruption kickbacks are becoming increasingly rare in Korea, except some industries such as pharmaceuticals. So considerations, yes, you need a local partner or office, local establishment presence in Korea in order to be able to import your medical devices to Korea. But you need to get it right. If not, it can lead to flat sales or failure. Yes, some products may require localization of products and services. For example, if it is doctor facing, then it's not that of a big problem because most of the doctors are educated in the US or Europe. That's why they're fine with English. But if it is a patient facing, then it may need some translations or adjustment modifications. You really need to make sure that regulations are right for technology before going into trouble. So local support, Koreans expect really high level of customer support. That's why you need to have a kind of local ground support, because local support on the ground around the clock, and providing technical or spare parts or other servicing services. So just about Interlink, we're an international business development consultancy with deep specialism in East Asia. Founded in 1990, it's headquartered in Oxford. We have senior contacts throughout major Asian companies, and so far we have done 1,000 assignments for startups, SMEs, and multinationals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ruslan. I expect you'll need a drink of water after that. That was a really full presentation from you, so much appreciated. And you mentioned the Nemo watch gaining regulatory approval. Well, as it happens, and just by coincidence, we obviously have Huino, who is speaking with us or to our audience a little bit later this morning. So that's absolutely great. I'm now going to move to our next presenter, who is Logan Yoon. And Logan is the founder and CEO of Climax Group. And that's a company that helps international SMEs break entry barriers and unlock success through building market strategy in Korea. So I'm going to introduce Logan. Logan has also worked for the British Standard Institution and has had senior roles for major Korean conglomerates such as LG and SK. So if I can hand over to Logan, that would be fantastic.
All right, thank you, Louise. Thank you for the introduction. So, morning everyone in the UK, and good afternoon to those of you in South Korea. 안녕하세요, 한국에 계신 분들 반갑습니다. My name is Logan Yoon again. I'm an international business consultant, development consultant, and helping mostly the UK and the European business do business in South Korea. So I help them to enter and grow their business in South Korea, and vice versa for South Korean the business. So let me share my. Okay. Okay, is it on now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, that's good. Right, so when you enter into a new market, it's crucial to have a roadmap to guide your success. So guide your journey and track how well you are doing with your plan. So today, what I'm going to do is I'll take you through the steps to bring your business to South Korea for South Korean collaboration or the partnership, whether that is local partnership or research and development collaboration. So today you will learn the 4 main steps that you need to take to develop your own go-to-market strategy for South Korea market. And I will also share 5 points of rule of thumbs or mindset helping you be successful in collaboration in South Korea. A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Don't get me wrong. I don't make fun of this serious situation, pandemic situation of COVID-19. But it isn't untrue that superheroes rises in tough times. So like we just learned from the previous sessions from Gareth and Ruslan, there are lots of things happening in South Korea, and there seems to be a lot of motivating fact for us to, encourage us to engage more with this country, South Korea. So let's not waste it. This could be a great time for us to do some more, and we can get heard by the many people in South Korea and the companies and the government. Having said that, I don't want you to just jump on a journey to South Korea without a proper plan or step-by-step guide, because all the welcoming kind of gestures and plans open up policy from Korean government for international collaboration is for everybody. What I mean is that it's not necessarily particularly for your product or the service or your business. It's promised to be successful in South Korea. Breaking into foreign market is luck. Build a growth in your local market is not even easy, right? So you may have been spending your whole lifetime in the UK, like I did in South Korea, but has this market ever been quite easy for you? Because South Korea market wasn't for me. Foreign market means difference, I think. So there is a different customers, and different behaviors, different expectations, and business custom and style. Like Ruslan just mentioned the earlier the session, the South Korean healthcare industry, the healthcare system is very affordable and universal. I think that is really true. Sometimes when I meet with some of the digital health companies in the UK, I told them not too much think of your value proposition in line with the kind of the system that we have in the UK, like NHS, because the South Korean healthcare system is a little bit different. I mean, totally different. So when I say that, like, you know, when you go to the Starbucks, you pay £2-3 and you can get the coffee. South Korean healthcare system is like that. So it's really affordable and really reachable and universal to everybody. So maybe there are different kind of needs and the expectation from the client or the partner side in South Korea. So without studying how you should do things differently in this market, in this international market of South Korea, it could be very risky for you to open the door, just going there, like just testing your luck with your business. Well, you might think, isn't that the reason why we do collaboration and set up a local partnership in South Korea, Logan? Because we don't know much about the what's happening in South Korea or the business custom. So we need some more guide and support there. That is right. But let's think about how would you tell you know, which partner is the best fit for you if you don't know about the market? And do you know how to find them? And when you find them, you sure they will kind of, you know, love to work with you just right away, or you sure they are the one that you wanna be as a kind of, you know, business companion for a long time in developing South Korea market together? So here's an example I want to share. So one of my clients, a tech product company, the medium size, they met a South Korean reseller in an industry B2B event. So when this the reseller came to their booth and dropped the name of the usual suspect of what we want to hear, the Samsung, LG, Hyundai as their client, the CEO, my client, thought, that's great, you know, it's a no-brainer. And they started to work like that way, you know, right away. But it didn't take too long for my client to realize they are not in a kind of, you know, ideal partnership situation. Things got worse. The partner wasn't kind of replying the emails, and they seem to be always busy, and they were always saying that you got to understand, you know, this market is different. The Korea is not, you know, working like that way. It takes a time to build the business. So, and they will not share even the kind of the market data or the plan either. So after 4 years of this back and forth with the partner in South Korea, my client had to announce to depart. I mean, they are now working with the to try to develop the new partnership in South Korea, because the local presence for them is very important and crucial. But why I mention this is this, from this example, like we can see, this is what happens when you just get engaged with a partner or the collaboration without knowing much about them, or even realize what partner you should have, right? So marry in haste, repent leisure. No offense though to anybody, especially for those of you who got married after a short dating period. Well, mine was only 5 months, if that helps. But I just wanted to, by this slide, I just wanted to emphasize again how important the preparation work before you actually engage with the new market, South Korea market partnership. Let me show you more details. So I want you to do a proper international business when it comes to the South Korea collaboration. But if you enter into a new market without discovering your opportunity and the right route to reach out your opportunities. So to channels like, partners or the collaboration. Then you'll be like, lack of discovery, no local presence. You'll be stuck in here, this part maybe. So this could be, let's say it's tourist. So tourists wanna just explore the what's happening in there and try to look at, just to try to absorb what's going on and they give it a go, and just is a kind of experience, right? And then sometimes they get to engage with some of the partners, but they are not really selecting the partner by their own research, but they are selected by the partner when they came to them to in a B2B event, or they approach them by, whatever the mean is. And then they say, why not? And that they do kind of, doing a little bit excessive, but I say, tourist is now do some gambling with local people. Why I say this? Because many of the companies who engage with the collaboration in that way without proper preparation, they experience a little bit hype, a little bit of success, very early stage. But after that, 90% of the companies having no success or no revenue generation at all, right? But after 1-2 years later, this company might be realizing there has been there should have been a great opportunity they've been missing, and some of other companies around them, the other competitors, you can hear from them like, they are doing very well the business in South Korea. So now you are trying to understand this market more, and kind of, you do the research now and try to make the relationship better with this local partner, but they are not really collaborate, and you ended up having the new partner set up a new partnership and the collaboration, because now you know who will be really helpful for you, and then who gonna be really resonate with the what you have to do in the market of South Korea. So this is the area of real business happen. I think the key is you want to discover your own market, not just the South Korea as great market, advanced society. There are lots of things happening in digital health. That's for everybody. I mean, I want you to develop your own niche market, and that you try to go there by the right route, right? So that is how can we do the business properly in South Korea. Right, so here's the process to develop a go-to-market strategy in summary to South Korea. So know your specific market first, discover your own opportunity, and set up a right route to reach out to that. There could be a local presence. You might hire the local specialist, or set up a distributor, reseller, or the R&D partnership, and declare the right collaboration channels between them. And then once you do that, once you've done that, be supportive to them, because they are in the front line for you. So it's not you, they are the deal maker. So demystify how they can do best for you and distinguish yourself. Don't expect it'll be okay, jump kind of, right at it here, or skipping the necessary part of this discovering or declaring. You will have to come back later, like my client earlier may want to fix it anyway. So let's just start from discovering your own opportunity first. There are 5 things you need to consider in the process of developing go-to-market plan in South Korea. Many times we are saying when you go to the new market, the customer needs an education, the client or the market needs an education in general. Makes sense. But do you know who your client is, or who your customer is in South Korea? What buyers in South Korea you're talking about? Unfortunately, we miss this very fundamental step from time to time of starting from kind of, discovering our very much the first customer or the client. So yes, basically what I'm saying here is that do your homework. But if you don't even know what you do, what you wanna what you wanna do, what you'd like to achieve in the market of South Korea, then how you can explain how the partner or the collaboration can help you to be there, right? So here's a quick tip about this. Sometimes it is daunting tasks, to discover your own opportunity. It's not that easy like it sounds, but start from asking yourself this one question. So who is my first customer or who is my first client in South Korea? So if you do the business in digital health or other tech business in any area, who should be the one, if you enter the South Korea, who is the one should adopt your business or want to adopt or willing to adopt your product or technology? So from knowing that, the very first one you have to meet and help and even rescue, you can move on to how to reach out to them, the one, which is going to be the setting the right partnership strategy. So let's be educated about them before educating them. Okay, I think I got some message here. Right. So here's quiz, because this time I know many of you already realized that the Korean business culture is a little bit different by this, chaebols, the Korean conglomerate, and the popular names of the Samsung, LG, SK, that big companies. So here's the quiz. Who do you recognize here? Some of them are my ex-big bosses, I guess. Right. I think I can't hear from you. Let me just. So let me just write down the company name here. We are now seeing the leaders of the company: Samsung, SK, LG, and actually they are now on the Korean Airs. I think they are now in the big collaboration. Like Ruslan mentioned earlier, they are big rivals to each other, but they sometimes do collaborate each other. So how many of you want to know how how to collaborate with South Korea or South Korean company? Well, actually, I think why they collaborate with us, or why they have to, and why they want to, would be much more important, question that we should ask ourselves. So I see many companies prepare the kind of perfect pitch for their international collaboration, but sometimes they don't bring any questions for their counterparts, and they just go with the flow. I think that's a mistake. You don't want to make questions like very basic, like tell me about yourself, tell me about your business, sorry, in the first meeting of your partnership. So you should already have a good sense of what they do and want to make and you don't want to just make a collaboration with anybody like from South Korea, but you want to make a specific collaboration to help your business to go further. So yeah, you should already have a good sense of what they do and develop a specific questions from your kind of genuine curiosity. So how can you, I mean, when you try to set up that partner who's gonna be represent you in the local market, how can you not curious about your potential partners and how they are doing? So let's remember, it's very important that why they collaborate. And here's a basic exercise. Try to understand where they are now, where this company now you are meeting is now, and how they do from here, and understand where they want to be. You may ask them, where they want to be in the in the conversation of your first partnership, the potential partnership meetings, you can ask them, how they do, where they are now to where they want to be, where they should be, and then maybe this, the steps or the gap. Try to focus on this gap in the conversation in your partnership development. Maybe that might be the reason why they collaborate. I see people like, especially entrepreneurs or the CEO, when they're pitching for collaboration, oftentimes they spend way too much time, in my perspective, for their product features and benefits. So as if they were trying to get potential buyers, not the partners. I can understand that because we are all entrepreneurs and we love this baby. We have this passion to kind of, about our idea and about our mission. We want to explain that to our counterpart. But I think, from a partner's perspective in South Korea, they might be more interested in the kind of fit between your company and their company, holistically. So not only they want to know what you're doing, what you're selling, but they want to know what you're particularly interested in them, about the partner, and how their kind of, market advantages, competitive advantages can help you, and why that is relevant to their partner. So it is really the story where the partner is a star, because they will be the one who make things possible for you. Let's remember this. It's not about you, but them. People work harder for their regions than for yours. So remember not to be fab. The fab I mentioned here is the feature and benefit, because that makes you very salesy, even not a good one. And sometimes it makes you look a little bit selfish when it comes to make collaboration work. You don't want to make your value proposition as something like average. Everybody say feature and the benefit from the beginning, which can be found actually the information page from your website, right? So you don't want to be seen as like replaceable, average, kind of not a unique value at all. But feature and the benefit is not a main thing you want to emphasize. That will not differentiate you. Here's the tip I want to share with you. Let's focus on one question. Why would this partner go with you instead of another company? They have lots of options to go with. Why should they have to the partner with you? So remember, the more you are partner-centric, the more they want the collaboration. Okay. By the way, I almost forgot to give you another quiz. Do you recognize who they are? This 7 boys here. Okay, it's BTS. If you don't know about them, it's a surprise, but you can learn by A, Googling them, BTS, B, maybe asking your daughter, then they might recognize them. Right. So there was a cultural study, and the study participants were asked to take a photo of a person. Now we are talking about the image here, right? And take a photo of a person. So there were Western and East Asian participants that joining all together in this study, and the Western most frequently took a close-up, like on the left, showing all the features of the person's face, while the East Asian showed the person in her environment instead. You can see this, human figure is quite small here. Here, human figure is quite small in relationship to the background, the surroundings. So the Western participant said, why is the Asian participant take a picture of a room, not a person? And the East Asian participant went, how can I determine anything about the person by just looking at it? the photo of a person should be the entire person, including surroundings. Well, as you can see, this picture, this is my photo on the left here. I guess you can also tell where I'm from either. Although this study was not particularly focused on South Korea, I think this gives us a great insight to understand how Korean people or how Korean business make a decision. So sometimes Korean business leaders are surprised when Westerners, the Western counterpart, make a decision by isolating a single aspect, a single fact, and ignoring the significant interdependencies. Because you know, the Korean concerns the impact from not only for the very project, the very task they are doing, but to entire relationship in their organization when it comes to the decision making. So when you persuade the Korean leaders, they might be holistic thinkers. So take the time to explain take the time to explain the big picture and show how all the pieces fit together. If they don't understand how this fit, you know, for the company's whole doing or the plan, they wouldn't feel comfortable to move to an action. So according to Professor Erin Mayer from INSEAD, Western business culture is relatively application-oriented because they are more to specific thinker side. So when you persuade them some people from US or the UK or some other countries in Western, you may focus on how the change will impact. So by this partnership, you will see this kind of, the new things in the future. You will have the extra revenue in the future, something like that. That is how the conversation works in the specific thinkers culture, application oriented. But South Korea is more principle oriented. So begin by explaining the big picture in detail and articulate why this part we are doing is needed for achieving the greater good. And this is in line with the principle of the company and of the whole greater good. By the way, I took this photo in South Korea. This is Gyeongbokgung, the very beautiful palace in South Korea. If you go to South Korea, I definitely recommend for you to visit there. Right, there is a word kebake. Is my last point. There is a word kebake in Korea, which comes from the English word case by case, English expression case by case. People use this word a lot. I recently met with the management solution company who has been doing business in South Korea more than 10 years, but only have only a few clients, less than 10. So I asked them, what is the most challenge they have in their business in South Korea? The regional executive said there's too much customization demands in their perspective in Korea. So every door lock requires a unique key. So does business. That's how Korean business might see things in business, case by case. They believe their business is different from others. So let's not assume and jump on the conclusion when it comes to you prepare your pitch or the value proposition that your product would be or is the solution for every situation or every companies that you meet. I'd recommend you to have the, especially for the early stage of your developing relationship with South Korea or doing business in South Korea, the early stage, you better to have this mindset that customization is the default in South Korea. So I know many great kind of, SaaS companies, software as a solution, software as a service, are struggling in doing business in South Korea because they are the solutions company and that they believe they are the solutions. But in this business culture in South Korea, there's hardly be a universal kind of solution. Korean business tend to think, right, this is some useful product or the project to help us to create a bigger impact or to enable for us to progress. So it makes more sense for you to be positioning as an enabler. They make your counterpart or the client get close to where they want to be. One last piece, the interesting one I want to share is that my Western colleagues sometimes ask me, what's the main difference in terms of the working culture between the UK and the South Korea? Well, Korea work as a team. I mean, Korea work as a more like a group rather than individual. And the group's decision, group's plan, how group move forward, group's propose is sometimes more important than individual preference or the motivation. So I think comparably, Korea values group's well-doing, the holistic well-doing more than individual superstar performance. So they are proud to be part of the enablers for the bigger picture than being an individual solution. Okay, I think this is my last slide. Let me summarize quickly the steps to build a go-to partner strategy in South Korea. So discover the first one you can target to. The first one you have to reach out, and you will set up the right route for you to reach out to the first one. And the first one that you have to meet in the market, that could be, you can reach out to them by the declaring the right partnership with the right channels. But if you want to make them to work with you, remember it is not about you but them, and demystify how this can benefit the big picture. And remember they might be holistic rather than specific. So give them a principle-oriented reason. And distinguish yourself as an enabler, not a fab, feature, and benefit. Okay, I think that's all from me today. Things might be challenging nowadays, these days, but if you're well prepared, now might be the best time for you to start your success story in South Korea. So I hope that was useful. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Logan. And from having sort of been out to Korea quite a few times now, there are so many things that resonated from your presentation, and certainly about this whole sort of holistic approach, Koreans being sort of very principled, very proud. And when we've been to all of the visits that we've had with companies, that really comes across. You know, the first thing that happens is you go in, you see the video, they'll tell you about their growth. So they are a very sort of proud nation, I think, and they're very proud of their own growth and their success, and it really has to fit with their company and their roadmap for it to sort of resonate with them. So thank you ever so much. That was absolutely fantastic. We are now going to go to our next speaker, Dr. Yim, who is from the Korean Health Industry Development Institute, which is a government-funded agency. And Dr. Yim has extensive experience of the Korean national health system. Just to say that this presentation will be given in Korean, but hopefully, all being well, we should all hear it in English. So I shall hand over to Dr. Yim. Thank you ever so much.
안녕하십니까.
Greetings to you all. I'm Im Young-il from Mihai. Well, you can see the slides here, but if you see slides before seeing my face, I will say that I'm quite a beautiful woman. Today I'd like to talk about the overview of Korea digital healthcare. As former speakers mentioned before, Korean national healthcare, digital healthcare has been addressed. So I will skip some parts that has been mentioned before. So I'd like to introduce Kitty first, and then digital healthcare necessity, a digital healthcare policy of South Korea, And the next one is current status of digital healthcare companies and major digital healthcare projects. The first KIDI. So KIDI is Korea Health Industry Development Ministry of Food and Drug, National Service of National Health Institutes are working with KIDI. We are also supported by the government. We are also public institutes. We focus on national health R&D. 90% of R&D has been introduced by us, and the purpose of establishment is to promote the national healthcare industry, including medical devices, medical services. Also, the next one is vision and strategy objectives. As you can see here, we try to develop a healthcare industry and promote public values. And at the same time, we try to facilitate global competitiveness of the industry and create innovative growth ecosystem. And we try to build a favorable environment for the growth of healthcare industry. So you can see the organizational chart here, and we have 3 major teams, such as digital healthcare team, future healthcare and policy team, and nutrition policy promotion team. And I work for policy support, and innovation healthcare service. I focus on innovation service and practical support. And the next one is necessity for digital healthcare. I believe that you all well aware this sector. So we are witnessing aging population in Korea. The elderly 65 or older takes up a huge proportion of medical expenditure. As time goes by, according to research, medical expenses of the elderly records high. And if they manage their health in an earlier stage, we can cut the medical costs. And the next one is, as you can see, as I mentioned before, the medical costs are increasing rapidly in Korea, and we also have universal health insurance. It is United Insurance. In terms of medical expenses, all people need to subscribe for the health insurance. In terms of COVID-19, diagnostic and treatment costs are being covered. So healthcare system is well suited and works quite well for dealing with COVID-19, and people are all well aware of this. In terms of national health insurance, we try to protect the health of the vulnerable. And also we try to improve the quality of medical services, and it is required by the public as well. Well, I believe that this holds same for all countries in the world, but for Korea, since the 1970s, we witnessed rapid urbanization entailed by industrialization. Hospitals are concentrated mostly in metropolitan areas such as Seoul. So less popular areas such as province have less medical resources. So most medical resources are concentrated in metropolitan areas. As a result, people living in province has lack of access to medical resources. So we need to focus more on improving equality of accessibility to medical resources. And we have put great efforts to improve it. And before Industry 4.0 era, we also made efforts. So here it is written in Korean, but in English as well. So the ultimate goal is public health and equity. So we focus on sustainability, quality, and accessibility. Those three aspects need to be strict and balanced. Now I'd like to talk about digital healthcare policy. First, we try to improve data-based system. Recently, we passed Data Privacy Act, and personal information, the extent of personal information has been clarified. And the second one is about coverage of telemedicine. With greater extension of the coverage, we companies conducted pilot projects in 4 isolated areas, such as islands. Telemedicines are allowed to ensure the health coverage. And as it is emerging as a social issue, we try to draw social consensus. And next one is the policies as well. We also transform into negative regulations. In 2019, we enacted relevant laws. We also loosened several regulations with the introduction of regulatory sandbox. And in terms of innovative products, we try to fasten them hit into the markets. Also, with empirical special rules, we allow innovative products to be verified in its effectiveness. And next one is regulations. We cut some regulations. So these are the comprehensive negative regulations. And the next one is regulatory improvements, approval and permission process. COVID-19 testing kits witnessed rapid approval and permission process. And the second one is we try to nurture and secure the talent pool in digital healthcare. And we also announced guidelines for companies who wants to apply for approval and permission. And the next one is development of medical devices. Relevant law has been revised and improved. And the next policies are we designate regulation-free special zone. There are 7 areas in total. Smart safety, autonomous driving, and mobility are subject to the regulation-free zone. And the next one is biohealth industry. It is led by relevant ministries' cooperation in 2019. In terms of bio big data, we try to collect 1 million people's biodata. And second one is data-centered hospital. Major hospitals data are collected and can be utilized in order to facilitate market access. We try to support companies. The current status of R&D investment, here you can see the first one is AI, then biosensor, gene technology, cloud, and robotics. The R&D are mostly focused on these 5 areas. As you can see here, AI, biosensor, have been made great strides, especially in terms of imaging. In these areas, R&D investments are increasing. And the next one is digital healthcare companies' status in South Korea. So first one is AR. As of 2016, 50% of the global venture capital is invested in AI business. So we have Lunit in Korea and Vuno2, and they are engaging in precision medicine. 95% of clinicians are using EMR, and 100% POCs are introduced. So across the nation, all those imaging data are covered by health insurance. Excuse me, are by the government, approved by government. So that's why imaging has been developed so far. And the next one is HRS system. As I mentioned before, 95% of hospitals have EMR. In particular, EasyCare Tech earned HIMSS level 7. We are doing quite well in EMR, and EasyCare Tech actually exports EMR to other countries. In terms of imaging data, we use AI to create products and diagnose patients and treat patients, and more and more companies are showing interest in these areas. The next one is IoT wearable and blockchain. Actually, wearable using personal data are being commercialized a lot. And via Bluetooth, personal information are safely stored in wearable devices. And the next one is major digital healthcare projects in Korea. As you can see here, we have 6 major sectors. First, big data. As I mentioned before, big data is covered by, they are addressed by government authorities. Prescription information and other information are digitalized and stored in big data. It is accumulated in big data. And the next one is regenerative medicine, precision medicine, a wearable, I told you before, and AI and 3D printing. They are the sectors that we want to advance further. The next one is EMR certification system. Each hospital's EMR are certified by the system. Functionality, interoperability, and security are the criteria for evaluation. So EMR are all integrated. And the second one is exchange of medical information. Data from different hospitals, clinics are being exchanged. Regional data are also exchanged between hospital and clinic. By hub, medical information are collected, and those data can be integrated to other personal health information, accumulating as big data, and also empowering patients to manage their health. It is also related to my data projects as well. And I'd like to talk about AI healthcare support. We announced 2019 AI National Strategy to secure AI infrastructure and global competitiveness and come up with laws and deregulate. I mentioned before, we pursue comprehensive negative regulation. We try to also establish new medicine development platform, and also provide supports for medical data-oriented hospitals. We also have Dr. N's project, which is joined by 26 hospitals and 22 companies to develop AI diagnosis on 8 diseases. And next one is Smart Hospital project, run by various hospitals these days. I believe that you may already know about this concept. The UK started Digital New Deal policy. Now, we also focus on smart hospital, regional hospital, clinics, small and medium-sized hospitals are all connected via communication technology. We try to smartize the hospitals. We select smart hospitals first, and with regional hospitals, clinics work together. Tele-ICU, medical resources management are being a major focus area. Medical resources, including health professionals, are well managed so that we can cut medical costs significantly. And the next one is telepractice. It is telemedicine between doctors and patients are illegal in Korea. Partially allowed, but face-to-face consultations are only allowed. But between hospitals, telemedicine is okay. So many hospitals are working together using telemedicine. You can see on the table that by province, telemedicine is allowed between hospitals. After the outbreak of COVID-19, severely ill patients would not need to be sent to university hospital. Via telemedicine, doctor can diagnose patients. So, inter-hospital telemedicine are being actively utilized during the COVID-19. Over 5 years, smart hospital projects will be tested. It already began this year. So only 3 slides left so far. So this is big data project. NHIS. Here you can see here all individual hospital data are collected in NHIS system. KCDC or HRR and AS collects data, and these data are integrated and de-identified, and they are provided for research or studies. I believe that big data platform is South Korea's strength. For the past 30 years, we collected patients and people's health data. Those data can be utilized for medical devices, medical services development. That's why we are pursuing big data projects. You can see which institutes collects data and how it transfer. And the next one is precision medicine. So 4P, the so-called 4P, personalization, post, precision medicine. We all collect individuals' health information to treat metastatic cancers. We actually collect genome sequencing of 10,000 patients with 3 metastatic cancers. And below you can see cloud-based inter-hospital PHIS development. It stands for Post-Precision Personalized Health Information System. We have various data, and based on data, we test R&D projects. And the future direction. So you can see on the top of the NHIS, HRS, NAS, K-Citizen, NEC, big data are stored there. And between hospitals, they exchange data. I talked about EMR certification as well. And in terms of transferring patients, clinic and public health institutes can exchange data as well. And here, my chart. We begin these projects this year. Medical records or personal information of individuals can be stored and integrated with hospitals' records. All treatments, diagnosis, data, and institutes' data are integrated. And we try to build big data based on those all data. Fine dust, temperature, environmental factors can be all integrated in this database. Then we can further the development of healthcare industry and promote the public health. And potential of digital healthcare markets. As I mentioned before, Korea ranked first in EMR distribution. And we also boast ICT infrastructure, smartphone penetrations. Also, we record 95%. In terms of all medical records, hospitals are equipped with EMR system, and all data will be standardized in my data. Many projects have been underway, but I know that we have a long way to go. I just talk about a blueprint. There might be some obstacles down the road. We accumulate data for 30 years, so this means that we need to change several data. But we believe that healthcare markets will lead to other industries development. And thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yim, and that was really, really good and very insightful. And I think that, you know, one can see there's obviously a lot going on in Korea around digital health, and particularly with sort of big data. and the impact that COVID has had with the relaxation of regulations. So hopefully that's going to create some good opportunity for collaboration with our UK companies. I'm now going to introduce our final speaker, Dr. Gill, who is the CEO of Huino. And Dr. Gill is a former adjunct professor of computer engineering at Busan National University. He's also the founder, chairman, and CEO of Huino, a company that specializes in AI-based ECG analysis and wearable devices. And as we heard earlier and was referenced by Ruslan, Huino has developed the first wearable device that's been approved by the Korean government. So I think this is going to be extremely interesting. So Dr. Gill, if I can hand over to you, that would be great. Thank you very much. I think you're still on mute at the moment.
Yeah, can you hear me?
That's it. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you for warm introduction. Yeah, Luis. Yeah. Unfortunately, I will present our in product and industry company using Korean. Please understand. Yeah. 저희 회사에 대한 제품을 소개해 드리겠습니다.
So I want to introduce our product and our company. So first of all, our company specializes in ECG, electrocardiogram. So today, basically, I will explain how our company has made it throughout the Korean market and how it survived. And I will elaborate on these. So first of all, a brief introduction to KFDA, how we get KFDA. And then I want to tell all these processes. So the total digital healthcare market, compared to that, Korea is very small compared to the total. Still, Korea is growing, and we have many technologies, and they are improving. So in the past, let's see some numbers, the trade balance. Overall, the numbers are growing. For medical devices, the trade balance itself is negative constantly. It's minus. So I believe Ruslan said that in Korea, most of the medical device is imported. So when we talk about 3-tier hospitals, more than 90% is import. Tier 2 and Tier 3 hospitals, totally it's 65 to 70%. The medical devices are imported. So from a medical device point of view, we still have a long way to go. So we have many supports, and we've also heard from Kitty. And constantly we are facing problems because Korea, the country controls the national health insurance service, and the country needs to constantly get new technologies. So that is our future, our doom. So for a universal health service, we have to have a cheap fee. Even if there are something good in the other countries, the insurance reimbursement in Korea should be very low. So it is very challengeable for the companies. So the company wants to put the healthcare cost at its lowest level. So even if when we have good technologies in the global market, the fees in Korea are not constant with the global market. So many companies with good technologies, suddenly they go out of the Korean market, and we've seen these things. So Korean patients had to give up their surgeries, and these are actually examples that we had it before. Then what is the reason for that? Why is a new medical device so hard to come in the Korean market? So I will explain that step by step. So in Korea, we have the KFDA. So to have approval, we have to do testing and evaluation. It says IEC 60601-225. This is something that we have to start with. If we are prepared, it takes from 6th month to 9 months normally. And when it takes long for companies not very well prepared, it takes more than 18 months. So after the evaluation and testing is done, we get a testing report. And after the testing report, it is reviewed by KFDA. And this can be done within 25 working days. Still, this is a very tough way until here. So once you're here, you're about 90% done. So simultaneously, you can do GMP approval. It is an audit for your manufacturing facilities. It is ISO 13485. So this is again an audit of your facilities. It takes about 2 months. It's a waiting time. And after the audit is done, you can get an KFDA approval. But that's not everything. You cannot go into market right after that. So to go into the Korean market, you have to have a reimbursed code for the insurance. That is a must. To get reimbursed code, you have to be listed on KFDA. So which means that you have to have a KFDA license by the government, and then now you have to do the reimbursed code things. So if you have an existing code, then things would be very much easier. But for digital healthcare, everything is new. Everything is new. So you have to go through the new health technology assessment. And there are many government bodies for that. And you have the Health Insurance Review and Assessment Service. And the process itself, the processes are managed by several government bodies also. So as you see here, for the NHTA to be done, these things should be proved. And even when you get audited for the code, the calculation for insurance fee has to be done. So even if you get approval for the new technology, but still, the Korean government should decide the insurance fee and how much will it cost in the Korean market. So this calculation is something that starts here. This is a health insurance assessment. And after that, you have your complete insurance code. So in total, it says that it will take about 24 months. But from our experience, it takes as long as 4 to 5 years. The reason being that the insurance fee calculation needs an assessment for the economy. So when there's a new technology, how much we can expect economically. So we have to go through a clinical trial. And this clinical trial should be done by RCTA. So it's not a must, but still, it is normally done like that. So also for the clinical trial, it takes from a year and a half up to 2 years. And for the economical side, again, about 2 years. So for all these evidence, it is very tough to get the real evidences. And it's a long journey. The reviewing time itself in the government body is not that long, but for making the proof, making the numbers for the review, this is the part that actually takes long. Still, in Korea, like I said, we have to come up with cheap prices. So for companies, things are a little bit tough. The country actually is cutting down regulations. So recently, we have the new regulations, and the Korean government is trying very hardly recently. So the picture here shows the domains that a new drug has to pass. It is quite the same for medical devices. To go through the KFDA to get insurance codes is a very bumpy and long road, and we have many hurdles to get over with. And then we get meaningful clinical results. So a little bit about our experience. So this is our product, the Memo Watch, Memo Patch, for easy ECG detection, and the AI technology to handle these results. So we were the first in Korea KFDA listed medical device company. It was the first in Korea. We got our insurance codes for wearable devices. And again, the first in Korea for remote monitoring. We got approval for remote monitoring. And we passed the ICT regulatory sandbox for the first time. We have 590,000 patient data. And in US and Korea, we have 23 patents as well. So what we want to focus in Korea, the service model is remote monitoring. It's not exactly telemedicine, but we're focusing on remote monitoring in Korea. Still in Korea, prescription and diagnosis related services are not allowed in Korea. We are ready with our technologies, but these business models cannot be done in Korea. So what we do with our technologies is for the patient to monitor their ECG everywhere, in home, at work, and the AI monitors the data and does call up to the hospitals in emergency. So the service model guideline was from 2015, and in 2019 we went through the regulatory sandbox and we started our service for the first time in Korea. In 2020, the government approved that this model should be used in any companies in 2020. So our advantages, why we can excel in Korea. So in the first time in Korea, we got the KFDA approval for wearable medical devices. And through these devices, we did our first waiver for wearable devices. And so we're allowed to handle data online through the devices. And this is, again, allowed by the government. And this is quite something we want to boast and we are proud of, that we were the first in Korea to get a health insurance code for a wearable medical device. So all of this was not done in one time. It took for us like 4 years after we got our technologies. We fell down many times. It was very hard. And now we have a successful clinical trial. And next year, we want year 2021, the first year for our first revenue. So from KIDI, we get many supports. And we are now supported office spaces and certification in other countries as well. So in Korea, Seoul National University Hospital is our partner, and we are supported with real data. And we have about 590,000 real-world data. Now we're doing service for remote monitoring. It was our governor. He was the first remote monitor patient. And he monitored his ECG online. So the market we're focusing is ECG related. How to do it more easily, how to get more productive, how to position in the market with these advantages, how to make doctors more productive, how to give them more detection rate. That is basically what we want to do. So this is the traditional Holter ECG monitor. You can only monitor 24 hours. So the detection rate is very low. But with our products, with our memo patch, we can diagnose more than 14 days. So compared to traditional technology, the detection rate is very much higher. So this can actually detect the dorming patients. And it is backed up by many papers as well. This is from Seoul National University. So the waiting for Holter ECG is 148 days. But with our technology, the waiting time is less than 10 days. So the diagnosis can be done much faster. And productivity should be much higher either. So in Korea, we are showing many synergies here. iRhythm makes the patch. And Bayer is producing the medicines, and they are showing a good synergy to detect dormant patients. So the pharmaceutical company Bayer made about $600 million supports. They invested this money to support the clinical trials in iRhythm. And Bayer is making $4 billion more because of that. So this is a positive synergy, a positive collaboration we're showing in the US market. The company iRhythm went up to NASDAQ in 2016, and it's worth $6 billion. It's showing a very much fast growth, and it has replaced the Holter ECG in the US market. So in Korea, with Huino, we are collaborating with Yuhan, the best pharmaceutical company in Korea. We are showing $5 million US dollar investment from Yuhan, and we are growing from that investment. So when we look at the digital healthcare sector, we have 4: prevention, diagnosis, treatment, monitoring, and management. So we are collaborating with pharmaceutical companies, and this would be our potential goal here. So our team, we're working with many good partners from all over the world. And our vision, actually we're the #1 and the only company in Korea. And we want to replace all the ECG monitoring with our highly productive products. And for patients, hospitals, and provider in Korea, actually the providers is the government. We have to provide them with clear positions. So for now, we want to detect arrhythmia at its earliest stage. And we can dramatically reduce the number of strokes from that. From the hospital point of view, they can increase their productivity. They can help much more patients. If we can prevent strokes, all the medical bills would go down. QENO, other than home care, we are doing telemedicine globally, and we want to expand that. And early diagnosis solutions, it is something that we are working right now. So we want to increase our quality of life. That's where we are headed. So this was everything. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you ever so much, Dr. Gill. That was really very interesting, I think, for the delegates who are on this session. And particularly, you know, congratulations to you as well, because it's obviously been some journey, but your persistence is really, really sort of paying off, and you're seeing great reward for that now. So absolutely fantastic. We are going to move into the Q&A session. I'm hoping that Mike Kipping is going to be able to facilitate that. Mike's the Digital Health Innovation Lead at Innovate UK. Mike, are you there and available, and can you see some questions? Alternatively, I can see some questions and start asking those, or ask people to ask those.
Hi, Louise. I am indeed here. Hi, everyone. Firstly, you know, great session this morning. Really interesting. I've certainly learnt a lot. I work for Innovate UK, as Louise mentioned, within the health team there, running sort of funding competitions. So straight on with the questions. I've got a few sort of warm-up questions, and then we'll go into some of the specific ones that people have raised. Again, if there are any other questions that crop up or spring to mind, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A box. So, do we need to translate our solutions into Korean? So this is for UK companies. And what is the main language used in Korean hospitals management systems?
So should we go to either Dr. Yim, sorry, or Dr. Gill for that, maybe? Or Ruslan, you may be able to chip in here as well.
Just expecting from.
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure.
Yeah.
So when UK companies are wanting to work with the Korean healthcare system, what language should they kind of would be best for them to work in? Can they work in English, or should they work in Korean?
기업과 코퍼레이션을 원한다면 영어나
So for
한국어를
companies, it doesn't matter, either English or Korean. English would be fine. For companies, cooperation with companies, it is not a matter.
해야 한다면
But for providing service to clients, that's another story. So for services, for products, then we need Korean.
I'll second to what Dr. Gill just mentioned. So when it comes to B2B or the B2G relationship, maybe the English is okay. If you can speak Korean, that would be the best. But still, the English is working for, especially the many kind of knowledge workers in the hospital side and the government side. But if you are concerning the South Korean market itself, so if you have to bring your product or service into the end user side, which is the customer side, then if you think about the model as B2B2C or B2G2C, then you might be a little bit more concerning about the language barrier. Basically, the English is not a business language in South Korea, but actually they are open to use the English for the international collaboration. But the customer side, they might prefer to have their own language.
Brilliant, thank you. So moving on.
감사합니다. 계속 넘어가겠습니다.
Companies wanting to work in another country, and perhaps Gareth can comment on this, but what's the best way for companies to try and engage with the big 5 hospitals in South Korea?
Yeah, that's a really good question. All of these hospitals generally will have some sort of business development or business partnership division in there. It's a question of being able to access that and to be able to pitch the right level of information, so that you as the company, you're not giving away all of the things that you have worked very hard to develop, but B, that you're getting to the right place. So I think for that, it's a case of potentially if you're working on something that you want to develop as a collaborative R&D project, perhaps that's something that you can come to the SIN team at the embassy for a bit of help on. If it's something that's a bit more commercially oriented, you have a product or a service that you want to sell directly to the hospital, then I would absolutely recommend that you talk to our DIT colleagues here at the embassy, who may also be able to help you. Now, if you want, bearing in mind we're a good old-fashioned government organization, so those things perhaps take us a little bit longer because we don't always have the links and we might need time to develop that. There are, of course, market entrance companies. A couple of those who might have already presented today might be able to help you if you ask them nicely. Obviously, they will be doing this as a charged service, but that's entirely up to you. So there's a few routes through, but do go and visit the websites of those big hospitals, because they are usually in English and usually have contact information there.
Brilliant, thanks. I guess this is an opportunity for South Korea to make a pitch for themselves, but what would be the advantages of a UK company looking to base themselves in South Korea rather than another country in your sort of general locality? Okay, Gareth.
I think the first thing is that and I think Dr. Gill and Dr. Yim will be able to add to this. Korea is not at the moment, I think it's fair to say Korea at the moment is not particularly comfortable with data sets leaving the country or remote access to data sets. And so I think that the biggest advantage that you're going to be able to have by setting up whatever size of presence that's needed here in Korea, or by developing a relationship with somebody that you trust to be testing your product or service here, is that you're going to be able to get access to data sets by being here. And I think that that's really, really important. I think also the testing platforms that are available tend to encourage foreign companies to come in and set up and be based here, at least for some sort of time. So I think those are probably the two biggest advantages of being here.
Brilliant. There was a great presentation on the regulatory pathways for gaining sort of market access in South Korea, and there has been a few questions around if companies already have sort of CE mark in Europe or FDA approval. Does that speed up the process for approval in South Korea? Are there any sort of aspects that they can just use for approval in South Korea?
If Kidi doesn't have any answers, I would like to jump on it. So, so if you have CE marks or FDA certifications, then it's much easier to register your products and get certified in Korea, because they do recognize FDA certifications from big 6 countries: UK, Japan, Germany, France, US, and I think Australia. Yes, they are recognized really easily. And yeah, if you have the certifications, it's quite easy to register. But there might be some special requirements. For example, in the UK, you have 3 plug-in, right? And then you have tested your medical device with 3 plugs. And then in Korea, you have to show that it can work well with 2 plugs. So electroviability test or something. Yeah, you have to go through that process in Korea specifically.
Great, thank you. Going back to the location part of it. So we've heard about sort of some of the benefits of being sort of based in South Korea, but are there other benefits of being physically based in the country? So how easy is it to access investment, for instance, from VCs or corporate investors? Are there any other benefits to being physically based in the country?
Yes, I think I can answer to the Ian's question about the why South Korea is better for the UK company to be physically located. Now, especially these days, many kind of the global companies try to locate in South Korea rather than compared to in the past, like Japan or the China or some other Asian countries, because by this, the global pandemic situation, this country turns out to be less shaken. It's like a little bit more stable than other countries, not only for digital health or some certain industry, but for example, supply chain was getting the big hit. That's why we all experienced that we couldn't order some, the food from Sainsbury's and Waitrose and Tesco's because the supply chains is in Asia some side. But so that's why many companies now try to move their kind of the kind of base or the factory or the research and development center into South Korea because of that stability. That's one thing. And then there is attraction if you want to do business internationally, especially you are target to Asia Pacific. South Korea is a great country to be located, especially in Seoul, because you can connect to other countries like the Japan, China, less than 2 hours. Singapore, Hong Kong by the international airline networks in South Korea. So it's great the locational kind of advantage there, and also the traction that the Me Too cultures by many of the Southeast Asian countries, like Korea does this and Korea now did this, and they are following that. Okay, let's do that. This is approved by the Korean customers or Korean industry, and let's do that. That kind of thing. So there are a lot, but it's more kind of now the companies, international companies, are getting realized that this country would be more beneficial, for them to be based.
Great, that's a brilliant answer. And Ruslan.
I just would like to add something. While I wouldn't recommend any company to establish their own office, own branch in Korea, I would recommend them to have a kind of support team on the ground, because first of all, that during the certification process, your team will need to work with the RA companies to register, because they all have to translate all the documentations into Korean. Everything is reviewed in Korean. And the second thing is, while starting the sales process, you will need to speak to customers all the time, meeting them, calling, which is not going to be quite comfortable for staying from the UK. And the third thing is after sales services. I mean, Koreans expect really high level of service, and you need to be ready around the clock. They call you and say, hey, my machine or my device is not working, come and fix it because I need it tomorrow or tonight. So your team will need to be ready. So while I don't recommend to have a kind of your own office in Korea, I would recommend to have a really good distributor or kind of some team on the ground that are working on behalf of you. Please, Gareth.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I think Korea now is trying to provide more sort of soft landing spaces for companies that are coming to explore the market here, particularly those from overseas. And so we're seeing a lot more innovation centers, SME support centers that are providing space to international companies that are wanting to come here. We at the embassy, I will be honest, say we don't know all of them because a lot of these are geographically linked to local industry types. But for example, if you're looking at the health sector, there is a big cluster around Osong in South Korea, which is a major medical development region in the country. There are, I think, the one that an awful lot of the sort of tech side companies that are looking at around Pangyo, just south of Seoul. There are plenty of soft landing spaces that are both operated by companies, but also by regional governments and nationally funded centers. So be exploring those options. They might give you money to come and be there if you're lucky. They arrange competitions and programs that will support companies to come in. So do explore those options.
Brilliant. And one last question, and then we'll wrap up the Q&A. What's the status of the UK-South Korea trade agreement?
That's probably me again, isn't it?
Probably is you, yeah.
So the UK South Korea Free Trade Agreement was all set up, it's all signed, it's ready to go. So essentially, as soon as the UK goes through that final process of withdrawing from the European Union, the FTA is in place and will essentially start as soon as we are officially out of the European Union. So yeah, there shouldn't be any concerns on that. And Korea is very much looking forward to working with us once that FTA comes into effect properly.
Brilliant. Great. Well, thank you to everyone who asked questions and to all the panelists for answering them. Really interesting insights. So, Louise.
Thanks ever so much. So a really big thank you to all our presenters this morning, particularly as it's actually quite late now in Korea. We're just starting out in the UK, but you're sort of going home, and I'm very conscious that we have eaten into your playtime, so to speak. So a huge thank you from us over in the UK. In terms of sort of next steps, I explained a lot about Enterprise Europe Network at the beginning of this session. If South Korea really is a market of genuine interest to you, please do make sure that you make contact with your regional advisor at EEN, and they will be able to help you get some resources. I would also look at events that are going on in South Korea. A lot of things are being virtualized at the moment, and the more that you can get involved from over here, obviously the better off you're going to be. But B2B events are a great way of just speaking to companies in South Korea who know much more about that country than you do. And it's not about, can we do a deal? It's about getting that baseline knowledge, really getting to understand where the opportunities are, developing some relationships. So I think, you know, it's not an easy market, but actually the whole sort of position that we're finding ourselves in is going to have made it a little bit easier for us to connect earlier on with South Korea because of virtualization. We are, as I said at the beginning, hoping to have or recruit for a second cohort on digital health Obviously, no one knows how this whole thing is going to unfold, but we're looking to do that next year. That will be made available on the Enterprise Europe Network website. Keep in contact with your advisors who will be able to send out information. It will be competitive, exactly the same as before, so we will be, you know, only selecting about 15 companies for that. But just keep in touch with us, and that's the way that you're able to apply, because I did see a question about that. And if you want any more information, please do feel free to get in contact with myself as well. And just on an event, back in May, we were actually supposed to be going to Korea for the Eureka Day. Again, that was postponed, but we do know that that is being virtualized in late November. I think it's the 24th and the 25th, and our colleagues, ED Research, are managing the B2B for that. Information is due out sort of imminently, I think early October about that, but that may be a good way for you to sort of get involved. And I think that we're going to see some emphasis around digital health because, you know, of the New Deal, and that's where the government are prioritising sort of funding and things. So certainly worth keeping an eye out for that, but we will definitely make contact with you and alert you of that event as well.